Hey, I'm Jim Barry, and this is Miami Life, the show that peeks behind the curtain at life in South Florida. This week, we want to bring you some of our favorite stories over the past year, including a profile of an artist whose preferred canvas is an outer wall. Also, an interview with a woman carrying on her husband's legacy of community service. And we'll visit a South Miami market that is a local landmark. But we're going to start this show on the campus of Florida International University. The school was recently named one of America's top 50 public universities, a remarkable achievement for a relatively young school. We talk with FIU President Ken Jessel to find out what is behind the school's rise to prominence. You're kind of like that old TV show, The Jeffersons. Like you're moving on up.
Moving on up.
Well, we're moving on now. We're moving on up to the side.
FIU is making a name for itself as a leader in higher education. That's right, FIU. The school has cracked the U.S. News & World Report rankings as one of the top 50 public universities in the nation. It now ranks 46th, up 18 spots from last year.
And to all those who make FIU unstoppable.
The prestigious rankings are based on several factors, among them how many students graduate and how well they do once they leave school. The big news prompted us to drop in on University President Ken Jessel, who was beaming like a proud papa.
So we are very, very excited because we have been recognized by U.S. News & World Report as a top 50 public university, number 46, and a top 100 national university.
Put that in perspective for me. What would the ranking have been 30 years ago, 20 years ago?
Oh, well, we wouldn't even be in anywhere near the top 100.
Let Jessel tell it, FIU is a blessing and a bargain. Just $6,500 a year in tuition. About half of the school students still need grant money to afford it, and Jessel says 3/4 of those students graduate. A testament, he says, to the school's faculty.
1977.
Yes.
Yeah. The hairstyles are a little different.
The hallways leading to Jessel's office tell the story of FIU's humble beginnings. Once upon a time, its main campus was the site of the old Miami Airport. Now, it's a booming academic metropolis with students from the world over.
I'm proud to come to this institution to see that it keeps getting ranked up over the years, which means that their education is improving every year, and that's really good.
The environment is so welcoming, it's so inclusive, it's so educational, so I really do think this is a great option for anybody.
It's those kind of testimonials that make Jessel eager to get out of his office and walk the campus.
Hey, how are you? Everything good?
I feel like I'm walking with the mayor or the president. Well, you are the president.
I never recognized my college president, but these kids know theirs.
Let's do a pause up.
Yeah, sure.
You know who this gentleman is?
Kenneth Johnson.
Everybody knows you.
Of course.
When I was
I don't
at
know
school,
about everybody, but
when
I
was
get
at
around.
school, nobody knew who the president of the university was. Forget he's here for a minute, right?
Yeah.
Okay. What do you think about this school, really?
It's the one place you're going to go where you have the kind of multicultural grounding where everything's kind of brought down to reality. You know, I've audited classes at other schools. No one else brings things back to actual, practical, you know what I'm saying? Understanding of topic material, right? It's a good professor.
In other words, they keep it real.
They keep it real.
In many ways, Ken Jessel is an unlikely university president. For years, he was content as the school's top money man. But when Mark Rosenberg resigned after allegations of sexual harassment, a reluctant Jessel stepped in.
And I heard that you didn't really want the job full-time at that point. Is that true?
That's correct. I agreed to step in on an interim basis until they went through the search process. And during the search process, they made a decision that they wanted me to stay on.
Jessel took over FIU's top job 2 years ago, right when higher education in Florida turned more political. Governor Ron DeSantis led a move to limit how state universities teach classes on race and gender and to completely outlaw diversity, equity, and inclusion programs.
What's wrong with diversity, equity, and inclusion, Ken?
I don't think there's anything wrong with diversity, equity, and inclusion. As I said, we have always been a diverse university.
Governor said that, in his judgment, DEI stands for discrimination and exclusion and indoctrination. You agree with that?
I will tell you that we are in full compliance with federal law, so we do not discriminate.
Perhaps the final bit of validation that FIU is on the come-up came from homegrown music superstar Pitbull. Mr. Worldwide is plunking down $6 million over the next 5 years so that the school's football stadium will be in his name. As Pitbull would say, dale.
People always said FIU, and they said, you know where I'm going, don't you? FI who? Yeah. It just didn't seem like it had any, people didn't take this place seriously at all.
Right, and that's not the case now. Now, when people hear FIU, they know exactly what FIU is. A top-ranked research university. By every measure, we are top-notch.
Next on Miami Life, my conversation with Elizabeth Jenkins, how she has forged her own path while continuing to build on the legacy left behind by her late husband, Dolphins executive Jason Jenkins. Welcome back. The sudden tragic death of Dolphins Vice President Jason Jenkins a couple of years ago left a huge void, not just in the team's front office, but also in the community, because he dedicated his life to helping others. So when the team needed a new leader for its signature charity event, the Dolphins Cancer Challenge, it asked Jason's widow, Elizabeth, to take over. And it has given her a new sense of purpose to keep giving back. When Jason Jenkins died 2 years ago, the Dolphins needed someone to step into his huge shoes and lead the fundraising effort for their enormously successful Dolphins Cancer Challenge. That's when team president Tom Garfinkel approached Jenkins' widow, Elizabeth, with a bright idea.
What are your thoughts about maybe taking over his board chair? And I was like, oh, that's a little much. I was like, let me table that and see really if I could wrap my head around it. And
So you were skeptical at first.
more skeptical if I could actually do it, if I had the skill set.
So what convinced you?
I went to church and my pastor gave a very impassioned speech about if God keeps bringing something into your life, maybe you should say yes.
So Elizabeth Jenkins took on the role. At first, it was tough returning to Hard Rock Stadium, where her husband had collapsed and died of a blood clot at the age of 47.
I knew exactly where his office was, so when I would walk up to the stadium, I would look up into his window. And I will be honest, I looked for him. I was hoping that he would be there.
The Dolphins have wrapped their arms around Jenkins and her 3 young children. And in return, she has become every bit the community advocate her late husband once was. The Dolphins Cancer Challenge attracts people bonded by a sense of loss that cancer inevitably brings. Jenkins believes her own loss has steeled her for this role.
I think people are comfortable talking to me because I really wear my emotions on my sleeve. I have no problem talking about the uncomfortable things. I'm comfortable talking about people's grief.
What do you tell them?
To feel it, to be honest. And I'm still going through it, so I'm not saying I'm on the other side. And I don't think there is an other side to it. You just sort of, you hit sort of milestones where you're comfortable in it.
Jenkins admits reaching this point has not been easy. She saw how her husband had the ear of the Dolphins' billionaire owner, Stephen Ross, but the eye for meeting countless needs of those in the community. How could he be taken from this world so soon?
I couldn't wrap my head around the whys.
And now?
I don't think I fully understand the why it was him, but I do very much believe that there is no bad situation that God will not turn for good.
This year's Jason Jenkins Day of Service will land on what would have been his 50th birthday. This unprecedented outreach effort of Dolphins employees and volunteers unites people who come from far and wide.
People ask me about Miami all the time who don't live here, and they say, it looks like this great melting pot. I said, well, it's more like a quilt.
Funny, but often true. However, Jason Jenkins believed that Miami's patchwork of communities could be connected in meaningful ways.
Do you share that belief?
I do. I mean, I am multiracial. You know, my father is white, my mom is Korean, my kids are black. Like, I know it. is a lot. You know, I think there's uniquenesses that you have to highlight. I think that's a good thing.
At a public celebration of Jason's life 2 years ago, Elizabeth Jenkins challenged everyone there to channel her husband's giving spirit. Now, she is beginning to see her words that day in an even bigger light.
I wonder if his passing was a moment that was passing the torch to others to start taking it on their own. We're in an area that maybe they never thought they could.
Including you.
Including me.
Yeah.
Including me.
Yeah. A confession from me.
Yes.
I have never ridden in the DCC.
What?
I'm a tennis player, okay?
Okay.
I know that sounds like an alibi, and maybe it is. But Elliot Rodriguez has been busting my chops for years, so I broke down, and I said this on the air, so I'm saying it again.
Oh, yes.
I'm going to ride this year.
You are. Yeah. I'm very happy. Do you know what you're riding?
Not yet.
You're like, I don't want to actually put that on
Not
the
yet.
air.
Well, the Dolphins Cancer Challenge takes place next February 22nd. You can learn more about getting involved on our website, cbsmiami.com. Just search Dolphins Cancer Challenge. All right, still to come, a street art legend explains why Wynwood has become the mecca of graffiti culture. Miami Life is coming right back. Welcome back to Miami Life. You know, back in the day, graffiti was seen as vandalism. Well, now it's an art form, and street art legend Jairo Vega parlayed his talent for tagging into a very lucrative career. We caught up with the artist as he showed us some of his greatest hits and the mecca for graffiti, Wynwood.
There's nothing that says Miami than saturated color, like just vibrancy, just pop.
We live in a city that embraces all types of art, but no other style captures the vibe of Miami quite like graffiti.
And you can see, like, you have bits of graffiti, wild style, like traditional Miami style lettering. You have an eyeball, which is like kind of like one of my iconic images. But then you also have this color transition.
Artist Jairo Vega's work can be found all over Wynwood. Miami Life caught up with him at the Wynwood Walls mural he created with his art partner, Quake, where he happily took photos with fans of his work.
You know, when I look at this piece, this is like one of those period pieces. It's frozen in time for me and my painting partner, Quake.
Vega's influences range from street art contemporaries to other, less obvious choices.
There are tons. I'm a huge Norman Rockwell fan, Egon Schiele, but I mean, to divert back to graffiti, I mean, man, the list goes on. I would say a lot of my contemporaries now definitely drive me more than before, but when it came to graffiti, Style Wars, you know, people like Scene and Dondi, Futura.
His work depends on his mood and his muse at the time of creation. This mural incorporates everything from classic cartoon characters to legendary Hollywood star Groucho Marx.
But throughout it, like I mentioned, there's a rhythm with color that kind of carries it on with flow. I can't tell you what it means, but it's up to your interpretation. What does it make you feel?
Sometimes the process of creating art is therapeutic, like this portrait of a friend Vega did during COVID. He says this work helped him at a personal crossroads.
It was one of those things where I kind of had to prove it to myself again, you know? I think I lost it, or like thought I lost that thing, or the ability to do what I do, and I had to re-earn it on this portrait, you know, and definitely face some fears.
Vega grew up in Boston. He says hip-hop culture was his gateway to graffiti.
It all starts with hip-hop. I grew up in Boston breakdancing, and just kind of fell in love with the culture as the golden era of like the early 90s kind of came in. So, you know, breakdancing, graffiti, DJing, and rapping or MCing was everywhere, and it was still in its infancy, I would say. You know, it was just kind of like stretching its legs out, and I think that's what kind of led me into graffiti.
Once viewed as vandalism, graffiti has become a celebrated art form. In many ways, Wynwood has become the mecca for street art. There are walking tours that showcase the murals and portraits lining the area. And the Museum of Graffiti calls Wynwood home.
There's no way in the world that's like Wynwood. Like, there's just nothing like it. There's places that try to replicate it, and I hear all the time, like, oh, we want to make this feel like Wynwood. There's no place like Wynwood.
It's also where artists can make big money creating street art, like this mural of Dolphins quarterback Tua Tagovailoa.
Wynwood is also the only place as an artist that I will say where exposure you can actually cash in. I've seen artists like break here.
Vega himself travels all over the world to showcase his skills. He was even selected to create a massive mural celebrating Prince in Minneapolis. He's grateful for his success, but he worries now that this once outlawed art form could lose its edge now that it has gone mainstream.
I operate in a gray area. I still walk the line, and a lot of my friends do too, right? We love this culture. We know where it came from. We know what got us here. You know, a lot of our work wasn't legal to begin with, though it is now, and it is my career, and I'm grateful that I can have one. There's a lot of structure that came with this culture that no longer exists, that I still feel the need to maintain personally.
For Jairo Vega, graffiti is not just a passion, but a purpose. And each year when Art Basel takes over, he takes it as a personal challenge to outdo himself.
Every year at Art Basel, I bring my A game with all my friends, and we try to do something that we feel is intimidating to us. You know, maybe it's bending styles beyond our capability, right? Or painting something that you're uncomfortable with, or being vulnerable on a painting. And I think that's where this is at, right? Because art isn't just about like paint on a wall or paint on canvas. It's your life story in some aspects, right? At least for me, that's what it is.
And we are coming right back. Well, in southwest Miami-Dade, the Wayside Market in Pinecrest remains a throwback to a time when Miami was a much smaller place. From its classic fruit shakes to its antiquated accounting system, it is absolutely old school, and the owner would not have it any other way.
3 shakes.
It's on Red Road in the heart of Pinecrest. The Wayside Market is a local institution. Open since 1948, it has a well-earned reputation for fresh produce, much of it locally sourced, tasty pastries, and of course, its famous shakes. What are you ordering?
My go-to, the Elvis shake. Yeah, it's peanut butter and banana.
Hey, if you know, you know. Most people who come to Wayside have a go-to order. Some don't even come for a shake.
A little secret tip is you don't have to drive down to the Redlands to get the cinnamon buns. You can get them here every Saturday, fresh. So we like to come here also to pick those up.
When we stopped by, we ran into several regulars dropping in for an afternoon snack. How long you been coming here?
Since elementary school, since kindergarten.
Really?
So yeah, 15 years.
What is it about this place that keeps you coming back?
The shakes, passion fruit strawberry specifically, but mainly the shakes.
Wayside is a generational place.
How's everything?
Eli Taco understands that very well. Before he bought Wayside, he used to come here as a kid.
I grew up in this area. You know, I used to come here. I went to Delaware Prep, which is like right down the street. I went to University of Miami, and we grew up like literally down the street. So you got two smalls and a tequeños.
When it came up for sale, Taco felt the pull of nostalgia and the desire to keep this beloved spot in the community.
It's a family-oriented place. You know, we're outdoors. You know, you get fresh air. You know, we have umbrellas and tables, and people they feel like they're on vacation. You know, they go to school like down the street. They come right after school. It's like a little treat for them.
The last thing he wanted to do was change things. He didn't remodel, didn't expand, kept things the same. Even kept Wayside's old-school paper accounts for customers.
Old school. If you walk through there, it's no computers. We have no cards, like literally no cards with the customer's name. Literally the customer's name. They come here, they say their last name. We put the date, we put the amount, they sign for it, we put it back in the box.
For some parents, a trip to Wayside is a carrot they dangle in front of their kids as extra motivation. One of the joys of running a place like Wayside is seeing the faces you remember as kids, all grown up, and bringing their children.
I used to see like little kids like this. You know, now they're coming, 6-year-old kids, and now they're coming with their kids.
For many customers, Wayside's a throwback they hope never changes. There are not many places like this anymore, are there? Is that kind of a shame?
It is, yeah. You know, these very tight-knit, kind of family-owned businesses, they're kind of becoming not so common anymore. And it's sad to see, but it's good that we have this one, so we have to enjoy it.
Wayside sits on a very valuable piece of land. It's worth a pretty penny. Its owner knows it, but he's not interested in selling. Have you gotten offers for this land?
No, honestly, people might ask for it, but never really, I was like, oh yeah, oh okay. You know, I just brushed it off.
A unique place where 3 generations of the same family can stop to enjoy a treat and enjoy the Florida sunshine. That's going to do it for this week's Miami Life. But remember, we'll see you every Thursday for this show at 6:30 p.m. on the stream. I'm Jim Barry. I'll catch you later.